Frances told me a few years later that she was sort of thrilled at the way that Diana sort of freed herself, as she saw it, from the shackles of royalty and from being a member of the royal family and striking out on her own.
For over 200 years, Britain's most prestigious families kept a secret, one so shameful to Victorian society that they literally erased it from history. They altered records, destroyed evidence, and separated a mother from her child forever. They managed to keep this secret until June 14, 2013, when scientists announced a discovery that shook the British monarchy to its core. DNA testing revealed that Prince William, the future King of England, carries Indian ancestry. His great-great-great-great-grandmother was not who the family claimed she was. The truth about what happened to her is absolutely heartbreaking. This is the story of Eliza Kewark, the woman history tried to forget. The discovery that changed everything. In June 2013, the British media was excited about a surprising discovery from Britain's DNA, a Scottish genetic testing company. Dr. Jim Wilson, a geneticist at the University of Edinburgh, announced findings that could change royal history. His team traced Prince William's mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down only through the maternal line, back 7 generations. They found something extraordinary. Prince William's maternal line carried a rare genetic marker, haplogroup R30b. This specific DNA sequence had been found in only 14 other people worldwide, 13 from India and 1 from Nepal. No one else in Europe had this marker. The scientists did not test William directly. Instead, they analyzed saliva samples from 2 living relatives in his direct maternal line through Princess Diana. These relatives were connected through an unbroken chain of mothers and daughters, starting with Diana's mother, Frances Shan Kidd, and going back to a woman named Eliza Kewark. Here's where it gets complicated. For over 2 centuries, the Spencer family tree claimed Eliza Kewark was Armenian. Records stated she came from Armenia, a respected European community. However, DNA evidence suggested a different story. Alistair Moffat, the researcher who investigated Eliza's background, explained that her true ethnicity was omitted from the family history and that she was misidentified as Armenian. This false representation continued even when Diana married Prince Charles in 1981. The family knew the truth but chose to keep it secret. Who was Eliza Kewark? Who was Eliza Kewark, a woman whose existence was often ignored? She was born around 1790 in Surat, Gujarat, India. At that time, India was controlled by the British East India Company, a powerful corporation that managed the country like a business before it became a British colony. Surat was a thriving trading center, home to merchants from around the world. Today, Surat is known for cutting and polishing 90% of the world's diamonds. Back then, it was where fortunes were made and lost. Eliza's father was probably an Armenian trader, suggested by her last name Kewark, which is similar to the Armenian name Kevork. Letters sent to her were written in Armenian script, and the Armenian community had been in India for centuries, running businesses and building churches. Eliza's mother was Indian, confirmed by DNA evidence. In this busy city, Eliza met a Scottish merchant named Theodore Forbes. Born in 1788, he was the 3rd son of a Scottish family. As the 3rd son, he would not inherit any family wealth. The oldest son would take the estate, and the 2nd son might get a smaller settlement. So Theodore set sail for India to work for the East India Company in hopes of finding his fortune. Theodore hired Eliza as his housekeeper. However, in this case, housekeeper meant more than it sounds. Research by Alistair Moffat shows that many British men had relationships with Indian women. These were not marriages or partnerships, but often exploitative and hidden affairs. Theodore and Eliza had 2 children together. Catherine was born in 1812, and Alexander followed in 1814. Theodore never married Eliza. In his records, he called her his housekeeper and labeled her as the purported mother of their daughter, Catherine, suggesting doubt about her role. This choice of words shows the cruelty of Theodore's attitude toward the mother of his children. The brutal separation. Catherine's story takes a heartbreaking turn when she was just a child. Theodore Forbes decided to return to Britain and took Catherine with him, leaving her mother behind. Imagine being 9 years old and told you're leaving India forever, the only home you've ever known. Catherine had to leave her mother, Eliza Kewark, without knowing it would be the last time they would see each other. Eliza never saw Catherine again, and we don't know what happened to her. There are no records of her death or grave markers. She vanished from history. Dr. Jim Wilson, the geneticist who researched this story, commented, "Very little is known about her, including when she died." Eliza Kewark, who would become the 5 times great-grandmother of a future king of England, was left alone and forgotten. Catherine, on the other hand, traveled to Scotland, where she grew up in British society. She received an education, learned about proper manners, and was told never to mention her mother. Catherine married in Scotland and had children. Those children had children, and the family line continued through daughters who carried the rare Indian mtDNA, which later proved the truth of her heritage. However, the story itself changed. The lie began in Victorian Britain, where society obsessed over bloodlines and good breeding. The aristocracy valued racial purity, and having Indian blood was unacceptable. To hide Catherine's Indian heritage, the family made a decision. They couldn't erase Eliza because too many people knew that Catherine had a mother. Instead, they claimed she was Armenian. Armenia was considered acceptable, exotic yet European. So Eliza Kewark became Armenian, with her Indian heritage erased from the story. They adjusted documents and refined their tales. By the time Catherine's descendants moved up the social ladder, no one questioned it. Everyone believed their great-great-great-grandmother was Armenian. Dr. Jim Wilson explained that mixed heritage is now celebrated, but in the past it was not. Theodore described Eliza as his housekeeper, indicating that they weren't married. This shows that Theodore Forbes was ashamed of his relationship with Eliza and their mixed-race children, so he chose to hide it. The lie travels through generations. Let's follow the path of a hidden truth passed down through generations. Catherine Scott. Forbes had a daughter, Jane Scott, and Jane had a daughter, Ruth Gill. Ruth Gill was mostly Scottish, with family roots going back many centuries. While the Indian DNA in her background was becoming less noticeable, it passed from mother to daughter. Ruth Gill married Maurice Roche, the 4th Baron Fermoy. This was significant because Baron Fermoy was a friend of King George VI, and the Roches were part of the Irish aristocracy, a high social class. Ruth and Maurice had a daughter named Frances Ruth Roche. This connects to Diana's story. On June 1, 1954, Frances Ruth Roche married John Spencer, Viscount Althorp, at Westminster Abbey. This wedding was a major social event of the season. Queen Elizabeth II, along with Prince Philip, the Queen Mother, and Princesses Margaret and Anne, all attended. Frances was only 18 years old, making her the youngest woman to marry at Westminster Abbey in over 50 years. The ceremony was stunning and received extensive press coverage. Yet no one knew, or at least no one said, that Frances carried Indian DNA passed down from a woman named Eliza Kewark, who had been removed from family records 140 years earlier. Frances and John Spencer had 5 children. One of them was a son named John, who tragically lived only 10 hours after birth in January 1960. On July 1, 1961, they welcomed another child, a daughter named Diana Frances Spencer. Diana grew up at Park House on the Sandringham estate, playing with young princes Andrew and Edward. After her grandfather died in 1975 and her father became the 8th Earl Spencer, Diana became Lady Diana Spencer. She was beautiful, charming, and perfectly suited for a prince. Somewhere in her DNA was a rare haplogroup R30b, which would eventually uncover everything. When Lady Diana Spencer married Prince Charles on July 29, 1981, about 750 million people worldwide watched the event on television. It was called the Wedding of the Century, a fairy tale come true. Diana wore an amazing dress with a 25-foot train, while Charles wore his naval commander uniform. They kissed on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to roaring crowds. Yet, throughout this spectacular day, the hidden truth remained. Official records still labeled Eliza Kewark as Armenian. The secret was safe, or so they thought. The DNA doesn't lie. Here's the scientific discovery that changed everything. Mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, is unique. Unlike regular DNA, which you inherit from both parents, mtDNA comes only from your mother. It also changes very little over generations. This means that Prince William has the same mtDNA as his mother, Diana. She got it from her mother Frances, who got it from her mother Ruth, and it continues back through 7 generations to his ancestor Catherine, and finally to Eliza. This lineage goes back almost 200 years, and the DNA remains unchanged, revealing its truth. When Dr. Jim Wilson's team analyzed the samples, they found haplogroup R30b, a very rare genetic marker. Only 14 people worldwide share it. 13 of these people are from India, and 1 is from Nepal. There are no matches from Armenia, Europe, or anywhere else. The chances of this being just a coincidence are extremely low. As Dr. Wilson said, the evidence is unassailable. The team also found South Asian DNA throughout Prince William's other genes, confirming that Eliza's ancestry is genuinely Indian. When Britain's DNA announced its findings in June 2013, it made global headlines. Prince William has Indian DNA. Future King's hidden heritage revealed. DNA test exposes 200-year royal secret. This was significant because it means Prince William is 256th Indian. While that's not a large percentage, it is legally and genetically accurate. More importantly, when William becomes king, he will be the first British monarch with confirmed Indian ancestry. For a nation that once ruled India through colonialism and considered Indians inferior, this is a surprising twist. Family reactions and royal silence. Mary Roach, Princess Diana's maternal aunt, publicly commented on the family's ancestry. She responded positively, telling The Times, "I always assumed that I was part Armenian, so I am delighted that I also have an Indian background." This shows that even Diana's relatives believed the Armenian story their whole lives. The family had been misled, and Mary helped uncover the truth by providing a saliva sample for DNA testing. Instead of feeling upset, she felt happy about her heritage. This reflects a shift away from outdated views on race. However, the actual royal family remained silent. Prince William and Prince Harry did not comment on their Indian ancestry at all in the 11 years since it was announced. Clarence House and Kensington Palace did not issue any statements. The British High Commission in Delhi noted that William had no plans to visit India to explore his heritage. He visited India in 2016 for royal duties, but did not focus on his ancestry. The silence is puzzling. They may be private people or not want to draw attention to personal matters. However, it is also possible that this revelation makes them uncomfortable, even in modern times. The British government was reportedly eager to strengthen trade links with India. Having a future king with Indian ancestry could have been excellent public relations. India is a key nation in the Commonwealth and an economic power. But the royal family did not take advantage of this opportunity, and the news came and went with little official recognition. What this reveals about history. Eliza Kewark's story shows how powerful people can change history. During the British Raj, many housekeepers like Eliza dealt with hidden relationships and lost identities. Many mixed-race children were separated from their Indian mothers and denied their heritage, leaving few records or DNA evidence to uncover the truth. The Victorian era was focused on racial purity, supporting colonialism's belief in British superiority. Theodore Forbes knew his mixed-race children would face discrimination. He decided to raise Catherine in Britain, away from Eliza, to give her a better future. This choice worked. Catherine married into Scottish society, while Eliza faded into obscurity and loneliness. Eliza's story is largely unknown. Her personality, dreams, and final moments have been lost. However, her DNA lives on through Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Only Charlotte can pass on their rare Indian mitochondrial DNA, making this lineage a unique connection. With over 1.4 billion people, India's presence in the Commonwealth highlights the importance of having a British monarch with even a small amount of Indian ancestry. This lineage reveals a complex history, including the harsh realities of the British Empire and the acknowledgement of shared bloodlines. Mary Roach's pride in her Indian background shows progress since Eliza's time. However, some attitudes persist. Even Princess Diana did not learn of her heritage until recently. DNA testing finally confirmed Eliza Kewark's identity on June 14, 2013. After 2 centuries of being overlooked, her identity and Indian heritage gained acknowledgement. The future King of England carries her DNA, linking her story to today. Eliza, once silenced, now speaks through genetic inheritance. The lesson of this story. What can we learn from Elizabeth I's story? First, the truth always comes out in the end. It might be revealed through DNA tests, historical research, or someone finally speaking up. Second, the official version of history often hides the truth to protect the powerful and their reputations. Third, our fixation on purity, whether racial or cultural, can harm real people. Eliza lost her children, Catherine lost her mother. Many of their descendants lost touch with their heritage. Fourth, science can help bring justice. Dr. Jim Wilson and his team didn't intend to reveal a royal scandal. They were doing genetic research. However, they helped give a voice to a woman who had been silenced for 2 centuries. Today, there might be a grave marker with Eliza Kewark's name in Surat, Gujarat, or there might not be. We don't know. What we do know is that Eliza was a real person. She lived, loved, and had children. She was separated from them through no fault of her own and deserved better than to be erased from history. Now, thanks to DNA, she won't be forgotten. Prince William is one 256th Indian because of Eliza Kewark. That's a mathematical fact, but it's also a human story about love, loss, power, prejudice, secrets, and truth. Next time you hear about royal bloodlines and noble ancestry, think of Eliza. Remember that behind every carefully curated family tree are the people who were cut out, the branches that were pruned away, and the roots that were hidden. History isn't just what's written in official records. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones someone tried hard to erase. And sometimes, 200 years later, DNA reveals the truth.